What's up, everybody? Welcome back to some more Birthright coverage as we work our way through the various Brecht realms here, and in particularly the Western Reaches. So today we're going to take a look at Dauren, which is another one that's available for PC use. So this one is set to a neutral alignment initially, and it is, as in the description here, although one of the richest of the mining realms, Dauren remains a relatively uncivilized domain. The mountains of Dauren protect its citizenry from the shadows of the Gorgon's crown, but the threat does exist. So, anything basically within sharing a border directly or even a realm away really has to be aware of the Gorgon, or really just about anywhere, honestly. But we have some different provinces here, so a fair few here, so it's not really a small realm by any means. But as you can see, the highest level here is a whole bunch of level 3 provinces. A couple of, and then some ones, so very much uncivilized there. So plenty of magical potential, though. So we can see that the law and the guilds are going to be under the same person's control. So that's Collier Carnison. Let's see if we can get the glare to subside there. Hopefully, there we go. Daryl Wolkern, Sarah's Perfect Symmetry. So some of the religion there, and then Kirches Tundar, Karl Terbach, and then for the sources, potentially the Fae, which is an Urshay, not an Onshay. Let's take a look at the law here. So on the law, Collier Carnison, is a level 10 guilder, pretty solid bloodline as well. If you want to, again, start your campaign with the actual character, or if you're just going to come up with your own, but he is the existing one here. Again, solid bloodline, neutral good, and then controls law holdings only because its people desire law beyond the rules of the guild. So far, no serious challenges to his leadership as a law holder have cropped up, although he may be attracting the attention of other regents in the area. So something just to factor in, and we'll see how that kind of plays out when we talk about the allies and enemies here. Temples, again, a little more complicated since there's two competing religions here. High Priest Daryl Wolkern's Church, Sarah's Perfect Symmetry, and again, solid level here for him too, so level 7 Priest, was once the premier religion on the western coast of the Krakenaricht. It may still be the largest temple, but it lacks its former influence of domination. The High Priest would rather go on adventures and quests than manage his temple holdings, it seems, and the Symmetry has lost its spiritual ground as a result. Kirches Tundar, a new warrior cult, has moved across the border from Weirich. So we'll get more on that when we cover that realm. But so if you're looking at the religion part, so not necessarily conflicting religions, but a sort of one that had been the more dominant religion is losing prestige. So, but that being said, if that's when we'll look at that one, and when we get to the end section here of the domains on the Western Reach. But having a priest, head priest here, who's really been going on a lot of adventures, you could then potentially start with some very solid gear and items for yourself, and then potentially switch towards being a more active ruler. But anyway, we'll get to that. Guilds, Collier Cairnson's guild holdings are his pride and joy. He organized them out of the ruins of the old domain, and he now controls the most valuable silver mines in Brechtur. Now, if only he can tame the mountains. Again, we'll cover some of the issues with that. And then on the sources side, the Fae is a legendary Urshay rumored to live in the Horfell Mountains. Her mythical powers may be one reason why the Gorgon is loath to push into Darren and Weirich. Little is known of the Fae except that she appears on occasion as a beautiful elf maid. And again, we'll cover that when we get to the Blood Enemies supplement as well. Now, as with so many of these realms here versus some of the Anawirian runs, right, you are really, really spoiled for resources, as you can look here, right? 96 gold bar treasury. Compare that to even some of the wealthier realms from the Anawir area, and it's not even close, right? So you just have tons and tons of money, which really makes starting here, regardless of all the potential issues with the realm and getting it ruled up, you have essentially unlimited resources to work that as far as money is concerned. Regency generated and accumulated there, you got 34 and 38 respectively. You have a decent little army as well, which again, money can make that grow pretty quickly. And certainly once you start attracting more people to the area too, and ruling some of those provinces up. So the standing army is sparse, but the miners have historically shown their willingness to fight. All levies are actually treated as mercenary infantry for purposes of combat statistics. So you almost get like a free buff there, so that's pretty cool too. And couple that with the fact that you have, again, so much money, so raising a whole bunch of levies and then essentially getting a combat upgrade to mercenaries as far as stats go is pretty sweet. Anyway, you start off with 3 units of infantry and then 2 units of dwarf guards, and you only have to pay half the maintenance cost for that. And dwarf guards are pretty damn solid units there. And you have a decent little navy too. You get 3 cogs and a round ship, and again, money can make that grow pretty quickly too. Certainly areas that you would want to look at, especially with threats from the Gorgon and some of the issues with the humanoids in the mountains, etc. So as mentioned, Collier Carnison, or gosh, I keep saying it wrong, Cairnson, is the reluctant ruler of Dauren. He would much rather devote his time and efforts towards delving deeper and better mines to find more silver, but he has not been given the luxury by his people. Recently, he set up a guild council, the Funfenlotar, made up by the 5 most prominent miners in the realm, 1 for each provinces with a law holding, and rumor has it that he may turn the actual rulership over to them. And as we know, the level 1 provinces don't have any law holdings whatsoever. All the council members qualify as his lieutenants, so you have a solid group of those. However, one does stand out, Morway Singaway, level 7 Gilder, very minor bloodline there, and lawful neutral. Shows a particular talent for diplomacy and decision-making. She often sits in his seat at the Funfenlotar and could become his official heir. So it seems like, at least initially here, a very trusted lieutenant and could be ripe for a more prominent role as well. Other important NPCs, so you have Kobal Rookhaven, level 5 Gilder, represents a dwarven contingent originally from Murkalad. Distressed and unhappy with the situation there, they fled through Kiergard towards Baruch Ajik, but upon meeting fierce resistance, stirred up no doubt by the Gorgon spies, they turned north and then arrived in the Horfell Mountains. There, they believed they could make a new home for themselves. Unfortunately, Collier and his miners had just repulsed an invasion of Orogs and Gnolls from the east and were ready to fight any invaders. The dwarves and the miners nearly came to blows. However, Cabal stepped forward and offered herself as hostage to the Silver Guild. In short time, then, she taught the miners more about stone shaping and silver mining than they ever believed they'd know. Now the contingent of dwarves is about 1,000, and they live among the miners of Dauren in peace. And as former refugees, they contribute enthusiastically to the mining and defenses. Cobal has become one of Collier's trusted advisors and is an excellent candidate to become a lieutenant as well. She urges him to extend his law holdings into the Gorgon's Claw, Horlat, and Zilber to create a larger buffer area against the Gorgon. And again, those are the 3 provinces, the level 1s that don't have anything right now. But that could also come with potentially ruling those up just a little bit to civilize them a little bit more as well. So plenty of room for opportunity and expansion in the domain, and seemingly multiple people, multiple lieutenants that are trustworthy and capable of then taking on some of the tasks. If, again, you're going to roleplay Collier as he's kind of written here, as someone who doesn't necessarily want to spend much time ruling, but again, depending on what the DM has planned, could be forced into actually taking more of that role and not spending so much time mining directly, at least. So, description here: the Dauren is still a human realm, and the Brexts refuse to live underground for the entire year. In the 2 most brutal months of the winter, the dwarves and humans share the mines as living and working quarters. That the humans move above ground for the remainder of the year puzzles the dwarves, but leaves them plenty of space in their underground villages during the summer months. As one might expect, this leads to many clashes over property and personal rights, and surprisingly, the most serious cases seldom involve both races. Apparently, the dwarves and humans both err on the side of caution during most disputes and do not wish to disturb the delicate balance that they've created. Still, close quarters do not preclude dwarf or human-human disputes. Rather than impose draconian laws or harsh penalties on his hard-working miners or dwarven allies, Collier has simplified things with a single decree: if you can't live together, live apart. During the winter, this means troublemakers get sent to live on the surface, which is not inhospitable, but just, very freaking cold. During the summer, petty criminals must be confined to the roughest Underground camps and serious criminals are punished more severely. Exile, mutilation, and capital punishment are not unknown, but the laws of Dauren are still subject to much interpretation, mainly because, again, his leadership setup, he hasn't really fully filled in the law holdings of what he has available. So it's still very much a civilized realm in some cases, but just not very strict and organized and civilized in the sense that there's very well regulated and thorough thought out legal systems and enforcement. Now the cities, Groygarten, the northernmost city, is the more civilized of the realm's two cities. Keyword, two cities here out of, several provinces. Sheltered from weather and enemies by the Horfell Mountains, Groygarten is blessed with a safe harbor and pleasant climate. Most of the trade in Darren does go through here, and several trade routes have been established between the Garten Pass and the outside world. Bannenbach, on the other hand, started as a sprawling mining camp, but it has become larger than anyone might have guessed. That the capital was established here was a surprise to everyone. Because of the cruel seas of the Dauren Arm, it's not a favored trading port, and most of the miners live here year-round despite the better temperatures. Collier continues to hold court here, and because Brandenbach is a raucous mining city where silver changes hands and purses change owners on a moment's notice, he has given serious consideration to moving Dauren's capital to Groygarten. So it's still a very rough frontier type of town, so almost like a more of a Wild West type of setting as far as law and things like that are concerned. The allies of the realm here, Weyrich has promised alliance with Dauren ever since the famous ruin of Adlersberg, but no real assistance has been forthcoming, and if Dauren truly needed assistance, it would probably seek out the Count of Danigau or the Captain of Muden. So just different things to look at there. So you don't really necessarily have too many immediately trustworthy people, but again, that's an area where some actual focus on that from the ruler's part certainly could establish some solid allies. And you do have a lot to offer in trade as well. So, but that being said, you also have plenty of money and resources, as we alluded to earlier. So really, you can also sort of take security into your own hands a little bit more, ruling up some of your provinces just a little bit, and then you really, without even seriously impacting the economy, you could easily start by doubling the standing army and really probably doubling the navy as well, and being just fine. So, the Gorgon, as far as enemies now go, the Gorgon sometimes uses Kiergaard as an example to threaten Dauren, and he still marvels at the audacity of the Swordhawk and does not want to leave his breadbasket realm unprotected. So, Gorgon does have plenty of things to keep him or it really occupied, but that being said, you're still dangerously close to that realm, so, you don't necessarily want to draw the ire or attention of that particular Anshe until you seriously build up your provinces, your defenses, and things like that, and really forge some solid alliances too. Now, special considerations: because of the expertise in mining developed by the dwarves and men of Dauren, all regions gain a 1 gold bar bonus per holding when rolling for taxation or tithes. This unique situation is unprecedented in Cerealia. No one expects it to last forever, but the environment is profitable now. So, and something that really would, I think, behoove the ruler here to of taking advantage of, as far as leveling up some of the guild holdings and law holdings, and ruling up the provinces as well, just to further take advantage of that. So like I said, you really have a money-making machine in the realm, and just something that really should be taken advantage of. Now, again, the other enemies really are just taming some of the wilderness, where you have plenty of the typical enemies, so orogs, goblins, you name it, some of the things in the wilderness, and that's just something that would come with more civilization, building up the army and forces there. So definitely a fun realm to try out. Not necessarily overly difficult, but there's definitely some challenges to be had, and just figuring out, kind of counteracting the way that the current region is described here as someone who's more focused on mining as opposed to running a realm, but the fact that you are in that position really at some point should click, and that's be a neat way to sort of work that into the campaign where either, if you're playing as that character, circumstances really just force you to that, as opposed to just pawning things off on your lieutenants, but your lieutenants do seem to have your back and there's plenty of good candidates there. Or if this was a case of, you taking over from the previous ruler, maybe it is that something happens with Collier and he just decides to step down entirely. Maybe you take on the role of one of the lieutenants that gets sort of upgraded to ruling, or you're someone else entirely. There's plenty of opportunities for cool role playing there, and really sort of forging out what could be a very powerful realm in the Western Reaches of Birthright. So let us know your thoughts on Dauren if you've played it in any campaigns or adventured in there. Love to hear your thoughts. Thanks so much for watching. I know this was a long one, but hope you enjoyed, and we'll see you in the next one.